The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey, Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck. You may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host. Now, here's a little story I've got to tell about Robert Winfree you know so well. It started way back in history with Ad Rock MCA and me, Mark Radulich. I had a little horse named Paul Revere. Just me and my horsey and a quart of beer. Riding across the land, kicking up sand. Sheriff's posse's on my tail because he's in demand. One lone Robert Winfree he be, all by himself without nobody. The sun is beating down on his baseball hat. The air is getting hot. The beer is getting flat. He's looking for a girl. He ran into Mark Radulich. He said, "My name is Robert Winfree." I said, "Howdy." He said, "Hi." Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Winfree. Yay!
You know, I'd love to say that none of that's accurate.
You know, and I know that's a lie.
But there's a shocking amount of accuracy in the way you adapted that.
Thank you.
I've also never heard that song, so for whatever that's worth.
You've never heard? Yeah, well, you're not a huge fan of the Beastie Boys.
You know, if you'd been able to put the music to it, I would have recognized Sabotage right then, but no.
Okay, but that was Paul Revere.
Yeah, Sabotage is what I said.
Okay, got it. Intergalactic. Terrific.
Yeah, Sabotage.
Right.
They've only got the one song, Mark. We all know this.
Yes, Fight for Your Right to Party.
Yeah, Sabotage. Came on the other day in the car. I thought of you.
Did you? You were thinking of me? I like that you think of me. You should text me when you think of me.
I don't have your phone number. You don't have mine, and I like it that way.
On Messenger.
I don't have Facebook on my phone.
What are we talking about tonight? Jerk off?
How the Beastie Boys have released one song, and for some reason people are confused by this.
Uh-huh. What else?
Well, tonight on Damn You Hollywood, once we get done with our chicanery, we will be dealing with the Netflix premiere movie, a gothic murder mystery starring Christian Bale, The Pale Blue Eye.
Yes, sir. The Pale Blue Eye is a 2022 American mystery thriller film written and directed by Scott Cooper, adapted from the 2003 novel of the same name by Louis Bayard. Scott Cooper, before this, did Antlers. Before that,
which is pretty darn good, actually.
Yeah, I heard. I mean, Antlers came out in 2021, and everything that came out in 2021 was kind of a hit and miss, mostly miss. And that was in terms of whether or not people saw it, because we were still dealing with the aftermath.
Didn't Antlers technically set some obscure record, like by just being the movie that was released?
Maybe.
It was. I think it was like technically the #1 movie for the longest period of time, just because nothing else came out.
Antlers grossed $10.6 million in the United States and Canada, 8.2 in other territories for a worldwide total of 18.9. Antlers was released in 2,800 theaters for its opening weekend, alongside the release of Last Night in Soho, which we reviewed, and the expansion of the French Dispatch, which we also reviewed, just not you and I, nor was it in the theaters when we did it. It debuted with a domestic weekend total of 4.3 million, finishing 6th at the box office, and in its second weekend, the film dropped 54% to 2 million and remained in the top 10 for the first 3 weeks. So, Yeah, I don't see where it broke any records here. At least
I
not
don't know.
on the
It was some. I think it was some quasi obscure record that it broke, but.
But prior to
whatever.
that, he had directed, he had written, directed, and produced Hostels, also with Christian Bale. Right.
He
directed and produced Black Mass with Johnny Depp. He also did Out of the Furnace and Crazy Heart.
Out of the Furnace is pretty good. He and Bale do a lot of work together.
Yes. He's also an actor. He was in Get Low, For Sale by Owner, Gods and Generals, Austin Powers. So Scott Cooper. He's got a pretty decent filmography here with I think Antlers was pretty well received, as was Hostels and Black Mass. So again, he's not a slouch.
Nope.
The film features an ensemble cast that includes Christian Bale of The Dark Knight fame, Harry Melling, Gillian Anderson, who was one of the two people in the X-Files. She was not the dude. Lucy
not
Boynton.
featuring not David Duchovny of the X-Files.
So the X-Files featuring David Duchovny and not David Duchovny. Charlotte Gainsbourg, Toby Jones, Harry Lawtey, Simon McBurney, Timothy Spall, and Robert Duvall. And then Robert will tell you about the plot in just a moment. The Pale Blue Iris released in cinemas on December 23rd, before its streaming release on Netflix January 6th, which was the same day that Megan was released in theaters by Netflix. It has received mixed reviews. All right, so I don't have a lot of preamble for this tonight, to be honest with you. It was one of those ones where it was January, and I was just talking to Neil Blackwell from Movies That Don't Suck and Some That Do. Before I was forced to be social at gunpoint, we used to do a lot of triple features, and that was my place to do the streaming movies. And had I not done that, half of my top 10 list I wouldn't have seen those movies. So like Fresh, X was in theaters, but I saw it when it was PVOD.
Yeah.
A couple of other ones, because had I not been doing triple features, I wouldn't have seen those movies, and I wouldn't have known how good they were. And I had kind of a almost like an anxiety attack about it. Like all DMU Hollywood is pretty much set for either Tuesday or the off Monday or Wednesday, almost every single week until the end of the year, save a few weeks in September to catch up on some of the August streaming movies, like the one with Gal Gadot that's coming out for Netflix. And then Jason kind of hit me up about something, and so I scheduled something with him with a couple of streamers that I was interested in, like Boston Strangler on Hulu and Sick, which is currently on Peacock, not a real service. This to say that I got to figure this out and figure out how to get more streaming titles, because we don't have time for them on DMU Hollywood. I don't want to do multiple movies per show. But it's hard when you're making yourself only do one or two shows a week to find extra time to do all the streaming movies. And maybe this is worth talking about. Some of these streaming movies are really worth reviewing and talking about, because there's a lot of hidden gems out there.
Some of them definitely are. In fact, this one, spoiler alert for my thoughts on the film in total, this is the best movie I've seen all year.
In the year of our Lord 2022 or 2023?
2023.
Okay.
I can't say it's the best thing I'd seen, if we include best thing I've seen in the last 3 months, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's a solid picture. It's one of those where a lot of really, really good movies that are worth talking about and will end up on a year-end best of list, they go right to Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Peacock, not a real service, or not really HBO Max anymore, because David Zaslav said, no, sir. House Party, get that shit out of here. I saw House Party, by the way.
I'm sorry.
It was funnier than it had any right to be. You would have hated it.
Hang on. Let me ask it this way.
Yeah.
If you're not someone who fetishizes black people the way that you do,
it sucks then. It's terrible. Let me just cut you off right there. If you don't infantilize black people, you're going to hate this movie. If you're like me, or you're like my wife, I told my wife, we were supposed to do a rum distillery tour, and she was like, I'm cold, I'm tired, it's dark out there, wolves after me, I don't want to go. So we do this another night. I'm like, okay, well, do you just want to cancel date night or just watch something at home? She was like, no, I want to go out. Why don't we go see a movie? And I don't want to go. And half of what's out there she wouldn't want to go see in the first place. The other half are stuff I just don't want to go see, and I don't want to see a second time. So I'm looking at what's available.
You don't want to go see Avatar again, Mark?
Nope. I don't want to live on Pandora like a psycho. So
you don't care about the trials and tribulations and dramas of teenage aliens on another planet.
You know I don't. So I gave her two choices, and these are really funny choices, actually. I was like, we can either go see House Party, or we can go see Women Talking.
Ugh.
Your choices define you as a person. She chose House Party.
I would have chosen
Death by being run over.
I was gonna say like a car accident on the way there. Like,
I would have chosen Harikari.
there's
So yeah,
honorable ways to get out of this.
So yeah, no, House Party, like I said, House Party, if you're into that kind of humor, was funny. Like I laughed.
Humor's in heavy air quotes.
Here's the thing, and we talk about this. I was actually telling somebody this today. There's a reason why we don't review a lot of comedies on this show. Comedy is extremely subjective.
Yeah.
And even the little bit of comedy that I did last year or the year before with Ronnie, you know, like we talked about Vacation Friends and some of the other streaming comedies. It's one of those where, like, it's not good, but it still makes you laugh because shit is funny. John Cena screaming into the camera is somehow funny. That doesn't make Vacation Friends a well put together movie. You know, same thing with House Party. House Party was legitimately funny. I laughed in parts. She laughed in parts. We had a good time. We left the movie feeling better than we did going into it. It accomplished its mission. It's not a good movie. It is not a well-made, well-crafted movie. It sucks. But it's funny, as the parakeet just said. So, you know, if you're wanting, and that's the thing, and that's the other reason why we also don't talk about a lot of comedies, and we talk about, we do more stuff like this. It's just not worth dissecting, you know?
Yeah, look, I agree. Like, I'm not gonna. One, you know, believe it or not, comedies are kind of a dying art in movies. Like, there's not a lot of dedicated comedy films out there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but they're kind of they're kind of diminishing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's none, but there's a lot less.
Well, I think it also, you know, and I don't want to beat this dead horse, but you know, we talk every week about how they really have to be selective with what they're going to put in theaters. Comedies aren't a draw like they used to be. Like House Party, we went to go see House Party, but it was literally a fly-by-night, last-minute decision in the theater, and it was like on a Thursday, I think it was.
I assume you were the only people in the theater.
There was like maybe one or two other people, or one or two other like sets of people. Comedy just isn't a draw. Like if we go back through the top 10 of 2022 and look and see what they are, it's all all action, adventure, and I think horror.
I laughed pretty hard at Avatar. I don't think I was supposed to, but I did.
That's not, you know, that you silly guy, you.
I'm a cut up. So,
you're a card. Hang on, real quick. Not a comedy. Minions is funny, but it wouldn't be classified as a comedy. It's a family.
Well,
it's an animated family film.
Yeah, like comedy is kind of inherent to that, but to your point, like, okay.
So not a comedy. Thor might have been funny to some people, but not technically a comedy.
Thor was alleged, like there's alleged humor in Thor: Love and Thunder, but
just as a thought experiment, like I'm kind of just going down the list of 2022 worldwide releases, and we're talking in terms of box office here.
Yeah.
In terms of box office, I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is kind of an action comedy.
Yeah.
Animated film. It's a couple of different things. God, I'm into the 20s.
Yeah.
The Lost City is an action comedy. It's like, you know, it's an action romance comedy.
No. Like, I think Lost City is the first one where the comedy is a significant portion of what's going on there.
Okay, so it's the 24th highest earning movie of the year in our Lord 2022.
It's barely doing better than Morbius. or was it worse than Morbius? I can't.
Oh no, it did significantly better than Morbius by a factor of about 30 million.
Okay. I mean, and Morbius is funny, but it's not supposed to be.
By the way, Megan has not. We're doing the money now. Megan has not passed Morbius yet. After the Lost City, I mean, no. Ticket to Paradise. That's a romantic comedy.
Okay, fair enough.
At 27. So anyway,
yeah, like,
yeah, like you're just There's no reason to.
All the people who would be doing that are now writing crappy sitcoms for streaming services that get canceled after one season, and all the streaming services are going, why is Amy Schumer bombing again on our streaming platform when we give her a bunch of money to film a special?
The other thing of it is like I said, comedies will find an audience at home. Like if you look at
remember here's the one that you want to like that we should have cited. Wasn't it like wasn't it Easter or Memorial Day or whatever it was? Remember the Filipino one?
Oh yeah, like Easter Sunday.
Yeah, that was that was released on like Memorial Day or something.
Yeah, they moved it off of Easter for no good reason, and and then it bombed.
And it's just a comedy. That's all that is.
Yeah. So to just wrap this up, we can move on after this. Movies, romantic comedies, regular straight comedies, they have an audience. Like the one everyone's talking about now, which I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna end up watching it because I know somebody that wants to watch it with me, but it's not something that we would talk about. And it's found its audience on Netflix, and that is You People. You People is a comedy. You People has an audience. No one's going to the theater to see You People, but a bunch of people are watching it on Netflix. It's like, I want to say, looking at one of the things I follow for stats, I don't remember the name of the company anymore, but one of the that tracks like how things do well streaming. Like You People did really, really well. A lot of comedies do well.
Dude, did you see? Hang on. By the by, did you see the Nielsen release of like most streamed shows for 2022?
What was it?
Well, there was not a like the crazy thing. I don't think in the top. I want to say like in the top 12, in the top like 10, 20. No Disney. Like Encanto was the most streamed thing.
Yeah, I did see that. Well, it's funny. This Friday,
let's see if I can find that. Actually, keep talking.
Well,
locate that.
The last thing actually worth talking about is, as we're saying all this, what comes out this Friday? Big Time Comedy starring 4 elderly women. Like they're taking a chance on this, and 80 for Brady, I think, has its audience, but it definitely goes against the grain of everything we just said for the past 10 minutes.
Okay, yeah, here we go. So our top 15 streaming programs for 2022 via Nielsen. So again, take this for what it's worth. Stranger Things, NCIS, Cocomelion, Ozark, Encanto, Grey's Anatomy, Criminal Minds, Bluey, Gilmore Girls, Seinfeld, Supernatural, Wednesday, Heartland, Cobra Kai, and The Simpsons.
Okay.
You know what's not in there?
What's that?
Rings of Power. You know what else is in it? Hang on, no. I'm not doing a bit. Do you know what else isn't in there?
Yeah.
Any Star Wars show. Do you know what else isn't in there?
Marvel.
Any Marvel show.
Yep.
They're paying a lot of money for those. Like those aren't cheap. And if they're not delivering, that's a problem.
Right.
Now, again, take that with whatever grains of salt you feel necessary for the source being cited, but yeah, that's not good when you can't release something new that's big budget that will outdraw like Seinfeld or freaking Grey's Anatomy. Like you got a problem, man. You got a real problem. So, all right, The Pale Blue Eye. Moving on to the movie which we are discussing.
Not a comedy.
Oh, come on. There's some funny stuff here. We follow predominantly Christian Bale's character. This is set in the 1830s in New York, with half the people speaking with Virginia accents for some reason.
Okay, so I watched this with my housemates today at 7:00 this morning, and that was like the first thing that when the guy playing Edgar Allan Poe starts talking, and we all just kind of looked at each other like, what's with the accent?
I'd have to double check this because, believe it or not, like the development of the Southern accent and the way it migrated is kind of a interesting thing if you're into the linguistic side of stuff, like how accents develop. It did kind of develop a little bit more from like the frontier, which was not originally that far south. It was, again, this kind of like parts of upstate New York and whatnot, the Hudson Valley, which is where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not truly crazy. It's a bad fit for Edgar Allan Poe because Poe was, if memory serves, born and raised in Baltimore. say the line.
In B-Mo, we aim to hit a nigga, you heard?
Any number of them would have worked. Fair enough.
I thought that's the line you setting me up for.
There's any number of lines from The Wire that you could have pulled from. That's the one I kind of figured you'd go with. But
that's kind of my go-to.
Yeah, like. But the point, like, I believe that's where he was, again, like, born and raised. Right. So I'm not sure why he has that particular accent. I don't think that's ever been associated with Baltimore. Anywho, we follow Christian Bale's character. He is a former constable, a lawman, and he is called into West Point to investigate a murder and post-mortem mutilation of a body. This poor young man seems to have hanged himself, and then after he was expired, someone cut his heart out. And the people of West Point are somewhat understandably distressed by this. So Christian Bale begins poking around. And why did you change your profile picture to that?
To J. Jonah Jameson yelling, "Make it gayer"?
I'm just slightly curious why you made that choice.
Because that's my avatar. I'm J. Jonah Jameson screaming, "Make things gayer."
You're not, but okay.
Come on, Robert Winfree, make this gayer. I can see it brings me joy to see how much that just pained you. Like I could hear one of your organs start to shut down.
It was my left kidney. I could feel it just go, you know what? I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you out of this problem. We all know you don't want to be here. Let me help.
Moving on.
So, with the assistance of one of the cadets at West Point, the aforementioned Edgar Allan Poe, he begins investigating. He starts poking around. He uncovers a group of somewhat ne'er-do-wells. Poe begins looking around. There's one gentleman in particular, the son of the school surgeon, the school doctor, who's a little bit on the dark side. He's a little bit out there. So they begin investigating him. They find his sister, who's stricken with epilepsy and a couple of other like minor diseases of the time, which is what happens when, there's a lot of asbestos and whatnot in the building material. You know those bits in like Jane Austen novels and whatnot where someone leaves the city and just goes to the country and miraculously starts feeling better?
Right.
Look up the building materials for major cities at that point in time, and then that's why going to the country was you get away from the actual carcinogens and whatnot that are all over the place. Edgar Allan Poe begins somewhat predictably falling in love with this student. He is attacked by one of her other suitors. That poor boy winds up dead. One of the other boys runs off. Eventually, it is somewhat revealed that we believe we know who killed it. Was this family, you see, because they're descended from a famous witch hunter. And Christian Bale discovers that these people are using black magic and they need a bunch of human sacrifices to try and cure the daughter of her ailment. So he saves Edgar Allan Poe at the last minute. The two siblings with a hinted at somewhat incestuous relationship. It's hinted. Because incest is so hot right now, you understand, Mark.
Yes. Thank you, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he ain't wrong. I mean, really, I blame George Lucas.
He is really history's greatest monster.
He's up there. A few more years, he might surpass Mao. I shouldn't say that, but another few years. We'll see what he does. They die in a fire. Everything seems to be wrapped up when Poe realizes that it was actually Christian Bale's character who killed the first student and even the second, and somewhat framed the people who died. And Christian Bale explains his motivation. His daughter, who was his last tether to reality after his wife had passed some years earlier, was attacked and
sexually assaulted.
We're not quite 30 minutes in. I can't actually use the appropriate word, so.
She was sexually assaulted.
She was sexually assaulted. I should just be able to say this, but the world we live in. By three cadets at West Point, and she was unable to deal with the trauma, winds up committing suicide. Bale swears vengeance, finally finds one of them, makes him confess to his conspirators, hangs him, setting off the chain of events. He gets the other guy and he beats him to death and then castrates him and then cuts his heart out to make it look like it was the same perpetrator. And he explains all of this and tells Edgar Allan and tells Poe, I don't have the strength or the will to chase down the last one. I just hope he lives the rest of his miserable life in fear. And this is on you now. I will not object if you choose to turn me in. You have a piece of evidence that may or may not hold up. If you seek to pursue legal recourse, I will not oppose you. And Poe, who has kind of formed a friendship and a pretty strong bond with Christian Bale, considers and ultimately decides not to. He burns the evidence that he has and wishes Bale farewell, never for their paths to cross again. And it's strongly intimated at the end that Bale, having fulfilled his quest for vengeance, lets his daughter's spirit rest and then jumps off the same cliff she did. Implied, not actually shown. And that's it. A pretty standard, in some respects, gothic tragedy, murder mystery.
It's pretty perfect. It clocks.
There's a handful of issues, but yeah.
It clocks in a little over 2 hours. I'm not going to jump up and scream that it's too long. However, if another pass through editing, I think you can get it just under 2 hours. It might not have hurt this film. The other thing I'll tell you is I want to talk about something we don't normally talk about because I feel like sometimes, unless we have real issues with something, we tend to kind of say the same stuff. And so I don't want to go through like the litany. Like, of course, the performances were good. But here's something we don't talk about. And here's something that I think is probably the star of this picture, other than the story itself. And that is natural lighting.
Yes.
Very, very rarely when discussing the craft elements of any movie does the discussion of natural lighting come up. And because it's a period piece, it's shot mostly outdoors at night. There were times where it's indoors, but everything is by candlelight.
Yeah, and the number of candles they have to throw around the place to get which is how it would have been, for the record. Like, there's a lot of attention to setting detail that helps you get lost in the time period here.
So I think where the movie's biggest success is the aesthetic, and it's helped by, it's really propped up by the natural lighting of any given scene. It adds to the gothic flavor of the movie. Cinematography, I think, is pretty spot on here. When we talk about pretty movies, they're usually bright color palettes. Thor: Love and Thunder, one of the positive things we talked about. One of the positive things we talked about was the color paletting. We talked about that with Avatar. Avatar was a very pretty looking movie. This is pretty, but it's pretty and it's for its natural beauty. Yeah. One of the things we talked about, I think, was like The Lion King a few years ago. Maybe another movie recently that's just escaping me. Bullet Train, that was another one with really bright color paletting.
Yeah.
Being able to make use of your natural scenery. This was obviously shot on location, which I can tell you.
Can we take half a second here and appreciate the fact that that everything on this movie is something the actors could interact with?
Go ahead. I go ahead and speak on it because I know that's big for you.
It's more in how much it stands in stark contrast to so much of. I'm going to pick on Marvel, but this is not a uniquely Marvel problem, for the record.
Okay. All right. Before you do, I found what I was looking for. Filming began on November 29th, 2021 at the historic Compass Inn in Laughlintown, Pennsylvania. Again, God praise the on-location shoot. In December, filming took place at Westminster College in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania. That month, additional cast members were announced. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, again, natural lighting, natural sets, making use of the natural beauty of any given area. You don't have to have beautiful vistas to have a beautiful scenery. Like, this movie is gorgeous, and it's in the dead of winter.
It's very stark.
In Maryland.
It's very stark,
Mhm.
right? But it is beautiful in that respect. And again, like, I'm not trying to just pick on Marvel. Avatar is nothing but, hey, interact with. We're gonna put the tennis ball on the stick and interact with it.
Right.
Nothing but that.
Can we?
And please,
I'm gonna jump in 1 second
right.
because I think you and I keep kind of pointing at it. We keep kind of picking up and putting it down. But let's really fully embrace this idea of films feel realer when the film is real.
Yeah.
As opposed
$1,000,000%.
As opposed to these sort of live action animated films that we're getting that feel like a fucking hallucination almost.
There's a bit that when everything is that CGI'd, one of the things you actually lose? Like, you lose the improv of the actors.
Yeah.
Like, there's moments when actors want to do things that are not necessarily in the script, that are physical.
Picking up an object, putting down an object, rubbing your hand across the table, leaning against something. You can't lean on the CGI box.
And if you're really angry, you pick something up and you throw it, and you can't do that when what you're picking up might be real, but you're throwing it into a green screen.
Right.
Like, there's a real lack of physicality to so much of this, to so many modern movies. And again, like, it's easy to point at Marvel because they're maybe the most obvious offender, but they're not alone. Like, this is, I'm not trying to just pick on them for the sake of picking on them.
Well, look at like the Fast and the Furious movies now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing a lot of stunts, a lot of practical stunts, but it's a heavy mix of practical stunts and CGI.
It's
to the point where
it's much more CGI than practical.
To the point where now even the Fast and the Furious movies, which had a grit to them, first two or three movies when it was about street racing and ripping people off and when it was about street racing and stealing shit, had a grit to them, had a realistic feel. You could almost smell the cars and everything, and and the burnt rubber and all of that. By the time we get to the Fast and the Furious in space, it's a cartoon now. There's nothing real. There's nothing that feels real about this. And even doing like the Tarzan swing stunt, it was fun to watch. You and I talked about that, but I mean, it was ridiculous, and you knew it was phony.
Yeah, and this movie's the exact opposite in the sense that it's very, very real. Everything about it is real, and you can't fake that. Like, there's something about it that translates.
The pale blue eye is 7 feet tall, and you can't teach that.
Please don't. I say that because I like that annoying individual is actually in MLW at the moment, so I wind up covering a bunch of his stuff. I have to tolerate him.
Okay, no, that hurt you personally.
He does hurt me personally. Look at him. Look at him.
But the performances are good. Christian Bale is great.
Can we take a second about
hang on,
this?
Real quick. Harry Melling, who plays Edgar Allan Poe, he is absolutely the fucking star of this thing. And it was pointed out to me, and I'm just now remembering this. He's Dudley in all the Harry Potter movies. What an actor he turned into.
Good for him, man. Like,
a couple of things he's been in.
Well, okay, hang on. That explains the accent, because if you ever, and I mean this, if you ever ask a British person to do an American accent, they default to Southern.
So he's in The Old Guard. He's in Say Your Prayers, The Devil All the Time, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and Please Baby Please. So he's and he's also on The Queen's Gambit, His Dark Materials, and the as far as major television roles, that's what he's got there. One episode of His Dark Materials, and then he's in a couple of episodes of The Queen's Gambit. So he's turned into a pretty solid actor, and I think this is a standout. I think he'll get work from this. This is a pretty standout performance for him.
Yeah, he does real good.
Yeah, I would say, like, Christian Bale's no slouch, and Christian Bale's a good actor, and not that he detracts from the film in any way. But I feel like if Edgar Allan Poe isn't working, the film doesn't work.
Well, what works is their relationship, and I want to talk about that separately for just a second. But it's nice to be reminded that Christian Bale is a very good actor.
Why do you say that?
Well, because the last thing most people saw him in was with like 40 pounds of makeup on his face and Taika Waititi going, "Do whatever you want."
Oh, I don't think anyone holds Thor: Love and Thunder against him.
I don't think they should either, but I'm saying it's nice to be reminded of the fact that, yes, this man can legitimately act.
You know, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but that's only if you don't see other Christian Bale movies. I mean, he was in The Big Short. He was Batman. He's been in a bunch of different things, a lot of which we might not even covered.
Hang on,
one reason or another.
Look, you're gonna make me make your point now. Do you want me to make your point?
Please go ahead.
This is your general point about movies like this. If people don't see it, does it really happen?
Sure.
So
if your line about like it's reminding people as if anyone, I don't think Christian Bale's done anything that would tell them he's not a good actor. He's not Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks of late has been in stuff where you would think like he's not a good actor. No, he is. Check out this other thing he did. You know,
again, look, Thor: Love and Thunder did serious harm to his reputation, to Bale's reputation in that respect. That's not his fault.
I think that's you.
No, that's not just me. Like I don't mind being the one saying it, but that's not just me.
You really think people walked away from Thor: Love and Thunder thinking Christian Bale's a bad actor?
I know people that did.
Okay. If you know people that, just like I know people who think Velma's a good show, if you know people who walked away from Thor: Love and Thunder saying Christian Bale's shit, I'm not arguing with you. Look, I can see the point.
I'm not. It does not speak well of these people that I know, but I know them.
Did I mention I know somebody thinks Velma's a good show? I mean, tank's easy.
And you should not know them anymore.
Well, then they'd be homeless.
How is that your problem?
Could please move this on.
Let's talk for just a minute here. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You and I had a brief discussion offline the other day.
We've had many. Which one are we talking about?
I'll get to it. About the struggles of modern Hollywood portraying men.
Sure.
Especially.
Hang on, we spent the better part of last year talking about that.
We did, but it came up again.
Mm-hmm.
And especially as it relates to the average big budget, wide release film.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of appropriate understanding of male characters.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of very, very bad examples of male relationships. This movie is an exceptional example of male bonding and what that looks like.
Agreed.
And I really need to give praise to that because it's so rare to find it in movies these days. To have just two male characters who become close friends through adversity and what that looks like. And here it's a little bit of mutual trauma. It's a little bit of, Christian Bale is alone in the world. Edgar Allan Poe is mostly alone in the world. Like he talks about how his mother passed and his somewhat connection to his issues of looking, seeing people in his dreams who are dead. And, there's hints of the supernatural in this movie that they leave ambiguous enough. So, and he and Christian Bale just kind of find kindred spirits in one another. And there's the entire final scene between them in Bale's cabin is just tremendously done.
Yeah.
But
I think it's not just Christian Bale and Dursley. I think the scenes of Edgar Allan Poe bonding with the guys gambling.
That's good. When he delivers essentially a very long, dirty limerick.
Yes. I watched that and it was a standout scene for me because, I'm sitting there and to your point about the tendency to not portray men flatteringly or accurately, like there was this. Okay. So I'm going to relate this back to the discussion we had last Thursday when it was me, Andrew, and Jesse talking Generation Kill about the use of language and cutting up amongst Marines in the, and we talked about, locker room language and just guys jostling each other. And you and I have talked about that a lot last year, about just the way men interact with each other.
Well, if you'll recall a few years ago in the Magnificent Seven remake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about that too.
Because there's a couple of great, it's one of the things that I believe the director for that is Antoine Fuqua.
Mm-hmm.
Fuqua gets how men bond and how men are with each other. Like even in something like he did a King Arthur version starring Clive Owen predominantly.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the only good things I can say about that movie is there's a bunch of scenes of the Knights of the Round Table
Mm-hmm.
just being close combat brothers. That
Yeah.
is incredibly true to how people are.
There is a lot of literature being written right now, a lot of articles about the lack of like male friends. You know, I was recently talking to my wife is part of a group chat that dedicates itself to a particular interest that she has. It's her business. I don't want to get into it. But I was thinking about how often she's in her group.
You don't feel like
No. I have no problem humiliating her.
I'm aware.
But giving away something that they
so if this were her furry group, you wouldn't have any problem saying it, but
no, she has this group chat.
Don't worry about it. Group chat, group of friends.
Yep. And we were talking about like how often she's in the group chat and how much she talks in it and what great benefit it has for her. And I said, if you take the subject matter out of it, and the general interest that she has in a particular hobby, and you just say group chat of friends, I realize that I have the same thing and I've had it for years. Like I initially created our podcast group chat as a way of communicating in case I died of cancer and I needed to get the word out real quick.
I don't think I'll make the show on Monday.
Yeah. Sorry, somebody's yelling at us from our chat to say that we did start the show earlier. So because she has to go to bed now and she can't watch the whole thing. Sorry, we were late tonight. Anyway, I realized that I created this community of people just by virtue of the fact of these are all the people I podcast with, and I podcasted, but with about a dozen different people. And I was like, I'm going to put them all in this group chat so I can communicate with them. And then once like the cancer went, my issue of having to talk, communicate what to do with the show in the light of me not being able to make it for one reason or another went away, it just became a place for us to talk entertainment. It's a group chat of friends talking about movies and television and like the finer points of it
and comics and whatever crosses our mind.
Right.
Till you look, you created a separate group chat for about 5 of us and said, take your fight nonsense over here.
It's true. My point being, in that group chat, we jostle each other. Short of the handful of people that legitimately don't get along and just kind of try to stay out of each other's way, for the most part, me, you, Jason, Bailey,
dude, you can
Pat,
go in there. I could go into that chat right now, and I could tweak Bailey about the Eternals.
Anyone can. That is low-hanging fruit.
I'm just saying, like, that's the example. That's an example.
But like, I give Evan shit when he makes stupid jokes, and
he makes a lot of jokes,
and everything is a joke. My point is, like, relating back to the central topic of, well, how do men talk to each other? That our group chat's a great example of that. I mentioned this on the Generation Kill show. Bailey and I give each other shit all the time, and we're not gentle about it. Bailey comes in and he purposely starts a fight. Like he's like a woman who's had a bad day. He purposely goes into the group chat. It was just like, you know what? And he'll just say some dumb shit and it'll like get us all arguing with each other. And then he just walks away as everything's on fire, very pleased with himself. And when he tweaks me a particular way, I usually will tell him to go fuck himself, or call him fuckface or whatever. But that you and I, when we're not legitimately arguing, you and I will jostle each other. You fucking give me shit on this show all the time, and and then I
as introduce
you,
I can.
and then I marry you off to random reviewers, or I introduce you via rap lyrics because I know it annoys you. I
would have to look. I'd be much happier with your choice of rap lyrics if they weren't all from Sabotage, but
what we're doing now. This is how men talk to each other, and it's seen
you just
here.
Assume my gender.
it is seen here. Shut up. In the Pale Blue Eye. It is seen in those scenes in the Pale Blue Eye of the guys cutting up, letting their hair down, decompressing, getting away from the conservative and strict nature of cadet life, and cutting up with each other. And what does one, and Edgar Allan Poe does a dirty limerick because you're
a published poet. I demand a public reading. Very well, sir.
Yep. And penis and dicks and vaginas. Here we go. Because that's funny.
I mean, I believe the final stanza of that poem is I pursued her, subdued her, and screwed her.
Yeah, it's great.
It is. It's funny.
Uh,
It's a
because
funny, harmless little.
because what I have to remind people on an ongoing basis is why do you say such things? Because it's fucking funny. That's why. Anything else about the movie?
Just somewhat related to that last scene in the cabin. There's a couple of points that just because acting is important. There's a moment when Edgar Allan Poe burns the evidence that he has. He has parts of a letter that were found on one of the dead bodies, and an actual letter that he knows comes from Christian Bale's character, and the handwriting is identical. Now, whether or not that constitutes legitimate forensic evidence in the 1830s, I think is something of a point for litigious historians, and I'm not a historian of law, but it also might have. And when he burns it, there's a moment when Bale sees this and he just breaks down. And it's not overly dramatic. You can say dramatic moment, but he's not hamming it up. He's not overacting it. It's just this really quiet moment, and he's just sitting in a chair and he just loses it for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then near the end, when Poe is leaving, and he doesn't even finish his last line to Bale, because Bale, one of the things he says is, the last little bit that we've been doing this, I've started to wonder if only you'd been the one that found my daughter walking home from that event, what might have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it chokes him up a little bit, and Poe can't even fully respond. He just says like half of two sentences. He starts a sentence like twice and then just can't finish. And the emotion of that scene is all over his face. It's all in the acting. And then it's right before he leaves. And I just wanted to draw attention to, again, this is a really good movie, again, about male bonding and about the deeper relationships that men form. Because there's a lot of assumptions made by a lot of writers who either don't have the talent to express their life experience or don't have those experiences to begin with. And which one of those it happens to be will vary. But this movie absolutely gets that right. And that needs to be said and needs to be brought up. Last thing I want to say positively, the music in this is done by Howard Shore and is very good.
If you don't know who Howard Shore is, he did the music for the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Among other things, yeah, he's a professional. There's segments of this soundtrack that gave me Silence of the Lambs vibes. I imagine he took inspiration from that. There's other stuff that's really nice natural music to the time period. This is another great thing about this movie. It's a wonderful period piece. Like, this is how you make a period movie. So the acting's good. The setting's all very good. The physical space is good. You mentioned the natural lighting, like you mentioned, is tremendous. The story, it takes a couple of weird turns that make sense when you're in the movie. And I don't mean this as a negative, because when I say they don't fall apart when you think about them, so much as the logic that is taken requires you to be in the right emotional headspace. Like, if you take a step back from this and go, wait, what made him think about this is the question about whether or not the daughter's a witch. Right?
Yep.
Now, said in 2023, that's a stupid sentiment. As something, again, as a period piece in the 1830s, that's a much more that's a believable line of thought and inquiry that would be taken seriously. So when I say that it takes a few odd turns that you have to be in the right space for, it's not that you're trying to make excuses for the story because you're trying to pretend it's not dumb. This is a story about people in a specific time period, and they think about things differently then. There's which is another thing I appreciate about this movie. There's there's a lot of attempts, and I've complained about this. You've complained about this. When people make pseudo period pieces, they try to contemporize everything. How do the people? Okay, we're gonna set this movie in the antebellum South. Okay, so the N-word. No N-word.
Not only that, but everyone's got some serious moral issues with slavery. No, they don't.
Or the Woman King, which is utter ahistorical nonsense. Yes, this kingdom. You mean the kingdom that in actuality was responsible for enslaving the vast majority of its neighbors and was the largest exporter of slaves? No, good kingdom. Doesn't like slavery. Okay, nonsense. Or the other one that kills me. And this genuinely gets to me a little bit about historical pieces. Somehow you still have your diversity quotas met.
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing against diversity, but if you know what, let's tell the story of the Pilgrims. Okay, so there's an Indian, a Chinese guy,
right?
No,
there's inclusion, and then there's I don't want to go off on a tangent with this because we'd be here for another hour discussing this, but I think the problem with the modern debate is that when you raise a perfectly good objection to something, the counter is that's racist. I make fun of it constantly. I do it to people just as a joke.
There's people out there who do it in earnest, and they're some of the worst people, but they exist.
So I guarantee you, we're gonna find. I haven't looked at the Rotten Tomatoes thing, but I guarantee you, there's somebody in there that complained there wasn't enough black people in this, and it's like, right, because it's fucking West Point in the 1830s.
I'm sorry, there's just not a lot. Wasn't a very well represented demographic at the time. What do you want me to do?
If you do, here's what I was gonna say. There's a lot of people who get lumped into like the neckbeardy, anti-woke, category, incels, that sort of thing, that raise perfectly legitimate arguments. I think about our friend Pat, and Pat's thing is, I have no problem with inclusion. I have no problem with minorities. Use them appropriately, as you would any character. Don't make the fact that they are a minority, I think we said this on the last show, their entire personality. That's an insult to those people.
Look, it's tokenism, and it should be insulting.
So so when somebody raises a perfectly good objection of, hey, this forced inclusion in this period piece is really unnecessary and insulting, and and makes the movie crap, there is no counter argument to that. When your counter especially is like, well, we need more black people in films. It doesn't really matter if you're talking about 18th century, Baltimore, or first century China, or in the year of our Lord 2050. Like, no, this stuff matters. Authenticity matters, and it should not be a slave to forced inclusion. Forced inclusion doesn't help anybody. Forced inclusion doesn't help minorities be seen as equal. It only makes the fact that they're perceived as unequal, that much worse.
Yeah.
All right, want to talk about the money or lack thereof?
Well, you did bring up the point that now you're right. We're going to find somebody whose main objection to this movie is, where's the people of color?
Yeah, I didn't see a gay person in this thing.
This movie was just, or like, why couldn't there have been a gay scene between Christian Bale and there's going to
not enough sex between Edgar Allan Poe and Christian Bale's character.
Not enough sex between a grown widower and a teenager in West Point.
Right. I mean, it was so romantically lit with all those candles that they were just asking for it.
Okay. No, here's my last thing, and I get that this is fiction, but there's a perpetual myth that Edgar Allan Poe was a drunk. It's a myth. He was not a drunk. He was actually allergic to alcohol.
Was he really? Huh.
Yeah.
All right, folks. With that said, that is our review of The Pale Blue Eye. Here comes...
I think I said very good movie. Glad I saw it.
Yep. Not unhappy we threw it on the schedule. Here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
All right. So this was a streamer, which means there is really no money to be had. There's no budget. However, we are, as this show has evolved, we still decided to talk about how the weekend went. Avatar, 7th week in a row. What did we decide it was going to be? It was Knock at the Cabin had an outside shot of doing it, but if it's not Knock at the Cabin, it's definitely Ant-Man.
Yeah, like, again, Knock at the Cabin, outside shot. Again, it only made like 15 million, so we're below 20 million. Knock at the Cabin might have a 20 million opening.
Yeah.
Again, might.
Yeah.
Ant-Man definitely.
You know what's funny though? What if 80 for Brady is the number one movie of the weekend with a $20 million opening?
I will laugh. I have a few people I know who hate Tom Brady, and it will amuse me to bring this up.
Here's what I'll tell you. So I told you, I think last week, because I'm hotsy totsy and and I'm in demand for all the socials. I got asked by a few different people to go take them to see 80 for Brady, and so I went looking.
Please tell me you had a degree of self-respect and said, absolutely not. I don't like you that much.
Hi, I'm Mark. If we met, and she's hot. So
I'm not gonna say it.
Anyway, so I went looking for other times because I'm like booked solid this entire weekend and into next week. Like,
how much? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ballpark this for me.
Yeah.
How much extra money are you spending a month being social?
Oh, buddy, we have to talk offline.
That much, huh?
Because what I woke up to this morning, absolute nightmare. Yes. Yeah.
You live in a nightmare of your own creation.
You ain't kidding. Anyway, the point being, I went looking for extra show times to go see 80 for Brady before its actual release this Friday.
People seem to be trending that like there's people I know who are legitimately excited for that. I wish them well in their.
There was a ladies' night showing early in the week. I'm going to see it Thursday night. But that's just an early screener. There was like a Wednesday showing. There was something else where it was. They're doing, the point of me bringing all of this up was they're doing a bunch of extra showings all week long of 80 for Brady. As a matter of fact, there was one Sunday because my son actually said that he wanted to go see it. I don't know why an 8-year-old boy wants to see 4 old women try to sneak into the Super Bowl, but apparently this movie, beyond me, has some greater appeal that I could not see, to the point where I almost reconsidered like reviewing that instead of Knock at the Cabin. I'm not going to do that to you. No, I love you. I'm not going to do that to you. But it's like I always have this lizard brain about our show about like we should be talking about what's trending, and I think that's going to be 80 for Brady. It's not going to be It's not going to be M. Night Shyamalan.
The way I've started seeing people like talking about that movie, I'm with you. Like I think that's going to be the weekend winner. Like I don't know where the interest in that comes from. I mean that like I don't get it at all, but people are excited for it.
Yeah, I mean it's so funny to go back to our initial conversation about comedy doesn't sell in the theaters unless it's 4 old women trying to sneak into the Super Bowl and Tom Brady's involved. What a weird collection of elements that makes that movie a success.
It appeals. I don't know who that appeals to other than the old demographic, which used to be like the primary driver of ticket sales.
It apparently appeals to fucking middle-aged women, like women over the age of middle-aged, women above the age of 30, and 8-year-old boys. I don't understand it.
You're gonna have to have a long conversation with your son at some point in the near future.
Have you seen the TikTok of him jousting? I have to talk to him about a great many things.
I have not. No, I do not. I am not on the TikToks, Mark. Okay. I do not engage in that frivolity.
Anyway, Avatar, 7 weeks in a row, the number one movie, and has made over $2 billion. Puss in Boots, in the number at 6 weeks, is in the number 2 spot.
Yeah, that's doing pretty good.
Something called Pasan, which I guess is some sort of Indian film, debuted at number 3. A Man Called Otto went up a spot from 5 to 4. Megan dropped from 3 to 5. Missing 4 to 6. Plane 6 to 7. Left Behind, Rise of the Antichrist debuted at 8. Infinity Pool.
I'm a little surprised they're still making those movies. The Left Behind series, which is a series of books I actually rather enjoy, but I'm surprised they're still making the movies.
So remember, I was talking about like I gotta make time to watch like movies that are a little on the indie side, a little that are eventually going to be PVOD or streaming or whatever. Yeah, so Mia Goth is in Infinity Pool, and I really want to see it just because Mia Goth is in it. Though I
don't know who that is.
She was in X and Pearl.
Don't know who that is. Okay.
But I'm getting like weird reports about Infinity Pool. Some are saying it's amazing. Some are saying it's like the worst piece of shit ever.
Most of the stuff I've seen has been trending more negative on it.
Yeah. The Wandering Earth 2 debuted at 10. Billie Eilish, Live at the O2, number 11. Fear debuted at 12. That's why we didn't review it, everyone. No,
I know a couple of people who have seen Fear, and they have nothing good to say about it.
Maybe I Do debuted at 19, Close at 26.
Hey, good for. Hey, wait. Everything Ever All at Once got a re-release around Oscar season. It came back in at 13. Look at that.
Hey, House Party, a movie I saw last week, dropped from 7 to 18 in 3 weeks. Here we go, Zaslav. Here we go. What a brilliant idea this was. But I just to go back to House Party for a second, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way anyone sober.
Oh man, we done messed up the koala.
Thought putting House Party in theaters was a good idea, and it's showing. Like, I guess they figured, well, we made it. We don't want to support the streamer anymore. Just put it in theaters and see how we do. You did poorly, son. You did poorly. Not a good decision.
Yeah. So all of the best picture contenders looks like they got some re-releases or some bumps for the.
Yeah, a lot of the theaters are doing marathons or bulk things, come in and see the best picture stuff, which that always happens.
Yeah. I'm just noting it.
One Fine Morning debuted at 36. Life Upside Down debuted at 45. Filmmakers for the Prosecution. Sounds like our podcast. That's what we should rename Damn You Hollywood. Film Critics for the Prosecution. 46, and that's that.
More like I gotta find the appropriate comic character or supergroup to reference for this, so I gotta think about it, but I'll come up with something.
All right. Well, I think we're enough weeks in that we don't have to keep referencing 2022. So Plane is the number one movie of the weekend. Number one movie in the world right now.
Because of France.
Operation Fortune. The new Guy Ritchie jam that is not currently in the United States. So all of its money's made overseas. That's at number 2. Missing is number 3. Pathan, number 4. House Party, number 5. Father and Soldier, number 6. Appointment, number 7. Another Indian movie at 8. And then Left Behind, 9. And then Detective Conan. I'm not reading that whole thing, at number 10. That's about it. I don't have anything really funny to add to this. As far as the next week, the number one, as we just discussed, the number one week movie of the weekend is either going to be 80 for Brady or Knock at the Cabin by M. Shyamalan.
I've come, like I said, I've got to come around. My hunch is that 80 for Brady takes it.
I think it's worth asking since we have a little bit of time to discuss it. Does M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong even have an audience anymore?
That's a real question. I mean, Old wasn't, we talked about Old, we had issues with it, but I don't think it was objectively bad.
No, our issues was the typical M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong of most of the movie is good. The ending makes no fucking sense.
That was
your brother has an opinion on this. He says, no, M. Night Shyamalan died after Avatar: The Last Airbender.
He went to go to his home planet and died along the way.
But yeah, M. Night Shyamalan really hit it out of the park with those early movies I See Dead People. What's that?
The Sixth Sense.
The Sixth Sense, yeah. The Sixth Sense, Signs, couple of other ones. And then I want to say with The Village, he started to get silly. And then I don't know if he ever recovered.
Village started it. There's a lot of good about The Village. The twist in that one isn't great, but the point of The Village isn't the twist.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people missed that. What was the one he did? Because
was he the one that did Having Sex with Water?
You're gonna have to be more specific, but I believe you're referencing The Lady in the Water, which
that's
yes.
The one.
That's
not the. Okay, The Lady in the Water is not The Shape of Water. The Shape of Water is the one we keep calling
Shape
Grinding
of Water.
Nemo.
The Shape of Water is Grinding Nemo. Yes, no, that was directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Okay, so then I'm thinking of The Lady in the Water, which also nobody liked.
Yeah, Lady in the Water. It's got a lot of problems. A lot of them.
So that so again, I saw the trailer for Knock at the Cabin on one of my dates, and she was like, "No, thank you," and it just made, huh?
I mentally I need to read the book that's based on before.
But I'm starting to. It makes me wonder, when people are sitting in their seats. And, I'm talking about the average people, the people I go on dates with, not us, who study this stuff. that they look at a movie by M. Night Shyamalan and his name doesn't ring out anymore. He doesn't carry the cachet that he used to. And if he's not making something that looks interesting, which I'll tell you this, Knock at the Cabin doesn't look interesting. We're doing it because it's M. Night Shyamalan and Batista's in it. But I don't know if I would bother if I wasn't going to the movies weekly for this show, is what I'm saying.
If we weren't reviewing it, I think I would wait for it to stream somewhere and then watch it out of it, like idle curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, like, I'm mildly intrigued. Again, I need to read the book. That might help my enthusiasm one way or the other. Like, the general premise, I think, is somewhat interesting. Like, you can wring some stuff out of this. I'm a little curious how they're going to get the full, like, theatrical runtime out of the premise.
Yeah. So we got, for us, Knock at the Cabin or 80 for Brady will be the number one movie of next weekend, and that'll finally be the thing that beats Avatar, which annoys me because
hang on. The GOAT, Tom Brady, takes down Avatar. I can see the headlines.
Yeah, you beat me to it. Like, I'm really frustrated at the not bait and switch as such, but like the clickbaity article titles of, oh my God, 80 for Brady takes down Avatar. Avatar's been in theaters for like 3 months. Calm down.
Yeah, like, but this is the world we live in, and the world in which you choose to participate.
Just like, be accurate.
It's going. No, they are accurate. They're overselling it, but they're
right.
Like, nothing else has done it. Nothing else is. Avatar's been number one.
Oh my God! It had one possible. Megan was like an outside shot of maybe being the number one movie of the weekend, and then after that, what else was there in Fuck You It's January?
Look. How would you write the title then? My curiosity to you.
For the first time in 8 weeks, a new movie is the number one movie in the world.
So, for the first time in 8 weeks, Avatar is dethroned by Tom Brady. After 8 week run, Tom Brady dethrones Avatar at number one. That's how you would phrase it. Because you have to phrase it this way. You have to get people engaged. You have to get them to click.
This is what. But see, when I do it, I get rolling eyes and sighing. When I say Andrew Graham made it a threesome with me and him, him and Jesse for Generation Kill, I got side-eyed.
Well, you made it weirdly sexual.
Maybe that's the trick here. Tom Brady forcibly takes down Avatar.
Tom Brady pursues, subdues, and screws Avatar.
I see that. I'm okay with that.
Tom Brady now being accused because Avatar did not consent to his takedown. Tom Brady and Gronk tag team to take down Avatar.
Tom Brady and Gronk have a threesome with Avatar. Avatar feels bad about it in the morning.
Then accuses them of...
No, I was thinking it, don't you say it. Your brother chiming in again. Tom Brady, the greatest of all time on the field, now dethroning Avatar to be the greatest of the box office. Perfect.
I have an aunt who is a pretty big football fanatic, and I occasionally have to razz her about Tom Brady's status in the game of football because she refuses to give him credit. She's still one of those people who's hung up on, no, Joe Montana is the best quarterback ever. I'm like, okay. Like, you can't talk to these people.
No.
On the off chance you're watching, hi, Doty.
But anyway, if it's not this weekend, which I would be surprised by, it'll definitely be Ant-Man. Ant-Man is actually, I misread the first time I read this headline, I misread it. So I was like, wait, what? Ant-Man Quantumania tracking to be the best opening of an Ant-Man movie. Yeah. I thought it was like opening of a Marvel movie, and I'm like, you're fucking shitting me.
No, yeah, you wildly misread that. And to be clear, I fully expect it to be the best financial of the Ant-Man franchise.
Yeah, for sure. Like, given its competition, like Ant-Man and the Wasp had the benefit of being released around the time of Infinity War. Which
hang on. That's actually the problem with Ant-Man and the Wasp. It came out right after Infinity War.
Well, no, I'm saying at that time, everyone went to see all the Marvel movies. So
yeah.
That I'm talking about the strictly box office. So, like the first Ant-Man, it does okay.
Yeah, the first Ant-Man's okay.
Financially, it does okay, but it was also like a movie mired in production issues and changing directors.
Boy, was it.
So and in Ant-Man, and I don't want to get into the same conversation that we get into in our group chat over none of the Marvel characters were popular. That they literally created the Marvel universe out of what was left that they didn't sell to Sony and Fox, and Universal,
which is true.
So, so like Ant-Man, not a popular character, and the movie did midland, but the second one comes out at a time where everyone's going to see all the Marvel movies, so of course it was successful. But this one is supposed to introduce the Thanos of this particular chapter in the cinematic universe.
Can we just go out a little bit here and say this? Like, here's the real problem, and I'll talk about this more when I see the movie. But here's my hunch about this. One, can we just be honest that multiversal stuff is stupid?
If you insist.
Okay. Everything Everywhere All at Once does multiverse stuff right. Name one other movie that does.
I don't know. I mean, if your point is people should stop doing it because they don't do it well, sure, I guess. I'm just not as energetic about slamming this stuff as you are.
Okay.
No, I will take these things on a case by case basis.
I think multiverse stuff is generally stupid. Okay. Generally stupid. As a general rule, multiversal stuff stupid. Okay, Rick and Morty did it okay as well, but
Family Guy did it amazing.
For the one episode where it was a bad joke. Okay, fair enough. But that's kind of the point. Like, okay, a 30-minute episode on a cartoon. That works. Or the kind of insanity of Rick and Morty. Okay, they kind of make it work. But you're also not supposed to take anything in that show seriously.
Right.
Trying to do it here again, I think multiverse stuff is stupid.
I'll tell you what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of because they're introducing the multiverse in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and they're not isolating it. It's the main thrust. It's the Infinity Gauntlet. I'm really afraid that they're not going to be. This is going to get too unwieldy for them, and you're not going to know from one movie to the next what's real and what isn't anymore, and it's all going to be just a giant mess. It's not going to be coherent.
Oh yeah, it's already kind of a giant mess. Like I take your point. Like, to people like you and me who think about this stuff a bit, we already kind of look at it and go, "This is kind of a mess, isn't it?" It's gonna get worse.
Right.
Have you heard the rumor about? I think it's Kang Dynasty. That what they're going to do is basically the same structure as Endgame, but instead of time travel, they bounce through the multiverse. Not kidding.
Just because I know how his podcast goes, I absolutely see a segment of the population just being pantsless and hard as a rock. It won't matter. It won't matter that it won't be good. The fact that they're doing it at all, and we got to move on after this, but the fact they're doing it at all, I think is going to be enough. So anyway, so up next we've got 80 for Brady / Knock at the Cabin, then Ant-Man, then Cocaine Bear.
We here at the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, we stand hard and firm on the line for Cocaine Bear.
You know what? I actually missed a week because we're doing February 10th. Where the week of February 10th, there isn't anything.
That's our Oscar contenders.
Right. So the only thing in wide release it's saying here, it looks like, is, other than the re-release of Titanic, is an IFC film called Consecration. That's in wide release. I'm going to double check this, but I don't see anything here for February 10th of note. Which is why I think I scheduled it for that week.
Yeah. That is why.
Hang on. American Films 2023, February 10th. We've got Magic Mike. Why? See, Box Office Mojo, fix your shit. So February 10th is Magic Mike's Last Dance, and then a streaming. Then hang on, there's 3 streaming movies. There's Sharper on Apple TV, which is directed by Benjamin Caron, starring Julianne Moore and Sebastian Stan. There's Your Place or Mine on Netflix, which is Reese Witherspoon and Ashton. Shut up. Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher. And then Somebody I Used to Know, which is on Amazon, directed by Dave Franco, written by Alison Brie, starring Alison Brie. And more importantly than all that, before you see Ant-Man, go to your local Fathom Events theater and see Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, baby. Woo!
Or don't.
I already got my tickets.
Why?
Because I want to see it.
You sure about that?
Oh, yeah, I'm bringing a date to this. Are you kidding me? I can't wait for this thing.
It's not going to be worth it.
It's going to be fantastic. They won't even list the budget on this. Oh, I'm so mad.
It's not going to be worth it.
The plot line is already up on the Wikipedia page. I hope. I either want, look, if Cocaine Bear is not going to be the #1 movie of the year, I want it to be, at least be Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. I'll take
no chance.
No chance in hell. All right. Moving on to the critical. Where are my buttons? The critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
All right. The critical score is 62%. The audience score is 70%. And the critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes says not enough minority sex. No, just kidding. The pale blue eye lacks its source material's piercing gaze. But this well-cast mystery is just intriguing enough to investigate. Ugh. Audience says...
You didn't need to phrase it like that, but the sentiment's accurate.
Audience says the story has some soft spots, but the pale blue eye mostly makes up for them with creepy atmosphere and some really impressive performances.
Accurate.
And well written
by whatever AI program absorbed all the user feedback and then spat that out.
All right, I only want to find your wives.
Why must you persecute me because of my religious beliefs, Mark?
Kamana Wanalea, or Milana Vuchkov, whatever you want to call her, Lola on film. If it kept its early promise of macabre deep dive into Poe's literary universe via an intricate murder mystery, this would have been an outstanding thriller.
No, I think that would have been too gimmicky. Like I've seen the gimmick Edgar Allan Poe movies. There's one starring John Cusack, I believe it's called The Raven. It's not very good. Like this is better off as it is.
Eileen Jones of The Jacobin. There's a real dearth of Hollywood adaptations of Edgar Allan Poe's work. Unfortunately, The Pale Blue Eye is far from the film that Poe deserves.
See, I disagree with that. One, adapting Poe's stuff is a lot harder than you think it is, because Poe's stuff is mostly not long enough for a proper adaptation to film. Second, like this movie does a great job with the appropriate atmosphere of a Poe story, so no.
Future ex-Mrs. Winfree, Amy Nicholson of Film Week, top critic.
At which number?
I mean, definitely after Lola Lamb Chops.
You know what? I'm gonna make you write this out in lore form. Like you have made this joke enough. I'm gonna demand that you form some kind of wiki about
like the story of Kane that he dictated on Raw.
Yeah.
And then for some reason they kept attacking Pete Rose.
Well, I mean,
I found the mystery itself a bit dull, but I like the setting of this and the character Christian Bale is playing. Thanks, Amy.
Isn't that you get paid for this?
Yep. Let's see here. Oh, there's our friend. Welcome home.
Hey, Kevin Carr.
Hi, Kevin Carr. Happy New Year. Happy 2023. Kevin Carr.
Back from your trip, back from your vacation to get away from us.
Fat guy at the movies. Well-balanced cinematography adds depth to this clever mystery and offers some strong performances by Christian Bale and Harry Melling.
He's not wrong.
He's not. Hey, every dog has a say. Oh, Johnny Gainsbourg of Fanboys of the Universe. I just like to read that one.
You do, and I'm not sure why, but you do.
It's probably because his last name is Gainsbourg. Gay. Too serious for its own good, and with a visual palette and pace opposed to just a frozen hinterland, is not so much a whodunit as it is a why bother. Oh, yeah. Johnny Gaze.
You are way too used to the pastel-colored schlock fest that are peddled about willy-nilly to actually. You probably didn't have a nice thing to say about the visuals and setting of the Banshees of Inisherin either, which are genuinely quite good.
Robert Levin of Newsday, top critic, Newsday, former newspaper. A serious disappointment.
Much like I imagine you're just parroting what your parents have said about you every day for like the last 5 years of your life.
Quiet, Skynet. Robert Winfrey's grandmother weighing in, Susan Granger of SSG Syndicate.
Not my grandmother.
Flora Jet Frosty. Since writer-director Scott Cooper fails to establish a shred of empathy for any of the dour characters,
bull.
oblique storytelling is a big slog. I'm guessing she's just not a huge fan of men.
That would be my read as well. Look, I understand that this is a very male movie in a lot of respects. I did have empathy for like our two major characters. Like, I don't know why you didn't. Like, that's a very weird thing to bring up from this. They're not presented as overly stoic characters. They have emotion. They show them. Like, I don't get you in that respect.
Chris Joyce of Movies and Munchies YouTube. Movies and Munchies gets to be on Rotten Tomatoes, but we toil in obscurity.
Yeah, it's depressing.
The best part of the movie is the last 20 minutes, and that's not something you want to hear about a film that's over 2 hours long.
You know, I don't agree with him that it's the best part, but that sentiment is something that is very true. It's a general.
Where are the rest of your women?
I didn't let him see the movie.
They're still in the basement, huh?
I don't know why I go along with your chicanery on this.
Maria Latilla of Why Now? One word. This is why the children can't read. It's dripping with a dark mood and atmosphere, which makes it a wickedly fun watch, but this isn't quite Cooper's best work.
That's true. He's done better than this.
Taylor Baker of Drink in the Movies. Drink
You're
it, Robert.
drinking something.
Swallow it whole. Don't you drip a drop. Don't you dirty daddy's carpet. With a command.
Okay.
What?
Why are you constantly quoting from Anna de Armas's internal monologue doing that singing in Blonde when she's blowing Kennedy?
Yeah, I've been doing that for over 20 years. That was a joke that started with my friends watching Raw. And I never quite let go of it.
Which episode?
Any one of them.
How did that come out of Raw? I'm just curious.
We'd be watching Raw and we'd be cutting up and joking with each other. And I remember how it would happen now. It would be somebody would be drinking and somebody else would make them laugh. And,
okay.
And so you'd have to now choke down whatever it was you were drinking. And as soon as that would start, we would all jump up and get in that person's face and start screaming at them, insinuating that it was, semen.
Yes. Your double entendre is not nearly as subtle as you think it is.
It's subtle at all. And us going, don't you drop a drop, don't you dirty daddy's carpet. And then the person, of course, can't stop laughing because we're fucking with them.
Yes.
And then, of course, they spit it everywhere.
Yeah.
Or drools down their face and they're just yelling motherfucker at us.
They have now dirty daddy's carpet.
They have now dirty daddy's carpet and they're going to get punished. Or, and I don't know if you know this phrase or not, Robert Winfree of the Screaming Boy podcast, they could get a
Screaming Boy. Not the Screaming Boy podcast.
They could get a punishment.
I know what those are, actually.
I'm sure you do, you kinky devil, you.
Yes. Me and the kink. We go together so well.
Like doop shoo doop. Taylor Baker.
Can't you just see me wielding various implements?
I actually could. Drink in the movies with
Get
a command.
me out of your head.
With a command. Nope. Now you're fucking stuck there. No shirt, jeans, and you're holding some sort of impact plate implement.
You are not allowed to put me in there, Mark.
You're so shirtless.
You've never seen me shirtless.
It's just wailing on somebody going, I fucking hate everything. It's just quiet, you. No.
Okay, for the record, that would be deeply irresponsible of me to go into that with that kind of emotional distress and baggage.
It's true. Being a dom is not about being a bully, as I was told last night. Anyway.
Yeah, which is why you're a terrible dom.
Also not wrong. So I'm at my parents' house last weekend, or a weekend or two ago.
All right.
And this is after I had been to a lifestyle party that
Alright.
had on that particular night a BDSM theme.
Okay.
And there was a lot of like discussions and displays and a lot of stuff going on.
The usual.
Yeah, and so we're talking to one person, and she uses the term impact play, which is the common refrain for people who are getting beat or whatever.
It's a self-explanatory term. I don't know why there's confusion. Like, that's not you.
Yeah,
like there's a lot. Yeah, it's impact play. What's that? Okay, use your brain.
Well, so my dad, who I this isn't new. I've talked about this before. My dad has a long storied history of enjoying the BDSM world, and so I was telling him about it, and I said something like, "Oh, there were different impact play stations around the house," and he goes, "Oh, is that what we're called beating someone's ass now? Why does everything have to be fancy?" I had to literally stop from dirtying Daddy's carpet because I was drinking at the time.
He's not wrong. Look, the reason you differentiate actually, God help me, I know this. It's about like location, because impact play in general can encompass more than just the butt.
And that's my new ringtone. You going the butt.
Just for the record.
Okay, I didn't know if there was any more to that. We really got to
thoroughly
wrap this up.
derailed this.
Drink in the movies. Taylor Baker, with a commanding performance by Bale, exquisite exterior cinematography wrought from natural lighting by Masanobu Takayanagi, and a committed turn by Melling as Poe. It's unfortunate that The Pale Blue Eye is a meandering disappointment.
Again, like there are some narrative issues to be had here with this story, but he's not wrong with his praise there at least. So,
Rachel Leichman of the Mary Sue, Robert Winfree.
You always have to do that one twice.
The Mary Sue, as opposed to the Tray.
Yeah, but you can't actually differentiate in tone because your voice is so weird.
The film looks so dark that it is often hard to figure out what is going on.
Please stop making this oddly sexual.
Wait a minute. I got to start that again. The film looks so dark that it is often hard to figure out what is going on. But The Pale Blue Eye as a whole, the Pale Blue Eye as a whole works because of Christian Bale's performance. Were you not paying attention? Was this too much movie for you, Rachel Leichman of the Mary Sue?
This person's an idiot.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, this is not difficult to follow.
No. Let's see, do you have any more women lying about? Or is there anybody else I want to make fun of?
I mean, again, I'd really prefer that you stop phrasing some of these things so terribly.
Carla Hay of Culture Mix. The Pale Blue Eye is an engaging and stylish murder mystery with a talented cast that can keep people interested when the movie's pacing sometimes drags. The reveal scene looks clumsy, but the movie's an overall worthy version of Louis Bayard's novel.
Not entirely wrong. That's a little bit sophomorish in terms of your sentence construction, but that seems like a needless critique on my part.
Oh gosh, William Bibiani of the Rap, friend of the show via.
Is he though? Is he?
Whitney Seibold. The best movie yet made about Edgar Allan Poe solving Edgar Allan Poe mysteries.
Hang on. I much as it's an easy thing to try and dunk on that, there's an entire cottage industry in the literary areas, like this between like books and like smaller movies, of Edgar Allan Poe being a character and how he gets his inspiration for some of his stuff. Like people have tried to turn him into like a quasi Sherlock Holmes kind of thing, and in the respect that he's bringing up of this subgenre, he is very right. This is easily the best movie featuring Edgar Allan Poe as a character.
All right, last one. Jordan Ropp of the Film Stage. It's a compelling endeavor to imagine what Edgar Allan Poe would do if he was a character in a world inspired by his own creation. But yet the artistic divide between Scott Cooper's latest film and the macabre wonders of the author himself is quite a chasm.
A number of you people have a very, very, very different perspective on Poe than what is actually real.
Yeah.
And it shows. It shows that a bunch of you had never really read his work or never seriously read it. and you think what he did and what he again, you think his work was one thing when it's really closer to this.
Well, folks, that is our review in totem of The Pale Blue Eye, brought to you by Netflix. That ends fuck you, it's January. We are now moving into February. Movies coming out.
So hang on, you need another like angry. What is February? Like we need something else for February.
I mean, no, but February, good movie start. Like
no,
ever since Deadpool, February. If the year, look, okay, you want to do this exercise. Starting February 3rd, we have two decent ones in Knock at the Cabin and then 80 for Brady. The 10th we have off. That's fine. But the 17th is Ant-Man, then Cocaine Bear, then Creed, then Scream, then Shazam, then John Wick, then Dungeons and Dragons.
Those aren't all in February.
No, but I'm saying like February starts like all the good movies.
Look, the good movies start coming out after February. February gets one or two.
Anywho.
So what is it? Token February? Like something to tide you over?
Token February. Pigs in a blanket February.
All right.
Anyway, so we did the Royal Rumble review earlier today. It was myself, Chris Bailey, and Blackwell.
You should have invited me onto that show.
You should have asked to be on.
I wasn't sure what time you were doing it, and
you can text me when you have something other than negative to say to me. By the way, you can just ask me questions like, when are you doing the Royal Rumble review, like everybody else does. Stop. You are not at a Sadie Hawkins dance. Stop asking for me. Stop waiting for me to ask you to dance. Just say you. What are you, my wife? Advocate for yourself. Just tell me when you want something.
Okay, stop projecting.
No. I behaved in marriage counseling today. I can do this now. I'm owed. I'm owed a tantrum.
So, Mark, I think you and I should start couples therapy.
Oh, God. Why does everyone say this to me?
I don't know, but that should cause you some self-reflection, should it not?
It should.
All right. I was going somewhere with that. No,
I should have invited you on the Rumble.
Because don't worry about it.
Yet again, you were pained.
I was not pained. Like that's me, like good-naturedly kind of joshing you.
No, I'm talking about just covering the Rumble. Apparently, you had thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I had to cover it, right?
Yeah.
I covered last year's Rumble, the 2022 Rumble, which was so bad it should be studied.
Yeah.
And apparently led to like the lowest point of morale in WWE for like the last 10 years.
Yep.
It was really bad.
Yeah, so dude, that was the one that Bailey and Sheehan and I did. It was before I was social and my life ended.
Back when life was worth living.
Yes, but back when I was happy. Anywho,
I guess no one else is in the house with you at the moment.
Oh no, they're all in the house, but I think everyone's sleeping or stopped giving a fuck what I think, or how I feel. So anyway,
only one of those things would be new and relevant.
True, but we were talking like we were reflecting back on a year ago where Sheehan and Bailey and I, the Posman, did the commentary for the Rumble, and Bailey put up like a picture of all of us like really into it and happy, and then like something happened later on in the show. You just see nope. It's like unhappy,
dude. That last year, because the first match last year was Roman and Seth Rollins. Good match.
I want to say that was the women's Rumble where Summer Rae came out and we questioned why she looked like Roger from American Dad.
She's nothing but forehead, and she comes. Yeah. Dude, I apologize for my language. I'm going to quote her. As the camera's on her and she's sprinting to the ring, she's yelling, "Fuck you, you bitch," at Natalya. And it's picked up on the broadcast.
That is fantastic.
And she's immediately tossed out. Yeah, and then Ronda comes out and wins at like 28, and everyone's depressed. And then you have another stupid match. Then you have the men's Rumble, where Brock comes out at like 30, and everyone's
I was screaming like. So I told the story earlier. Last year, like I was like one of like 10 people on Earth cheering Brock Lesnar and wanting him to just eliminate everybody.
And then he did.
Oh no, I'm confusing that with 2020. But yes, last year also he eliminated everybody and it was fantastic.
He came out at 30, and the air went out of the venue.
Because everyone knew where it was going.
Like, oh, great, Brock again. This means we get Brock and Roman again.
And no, it was 2020 where
Because 2020 he was number one.
And he wouldn't let anyone in the Rumble, and it was great. And I was the only one.
It was that was actually like a good angle they had for him. And when he went out, it made sense. Like
right, he went out against Drew, who won it, who then got defeated by the pandemic.
Drew's title reign was defeated by the pandemic. Drew himself went on to win the belt.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you want to talk about a guy who had
poor Drew, man.
Yeah, he had everything going for him, and then the world ended, and like, what could he do at that point? But anyway, we reviewed the Rumble earlier today. Tomorrow,
what were your thoughts on the Rumble? Because I haven't been able to listen to the
I didn't think. I thought the Girls' Rumble shouldn't have. I thought the Girls' Rumble should have ended the show. Should have. Jesus Christ! Let me try that one more time. The Women's Rumble should have started the show. It was a solid effort by good workers, but there was not a single star in the Rumble. And when your biggest star, when you're coast to coast, is Rhea Ripley, there's no reason why that shouldn't have just started the show.
Here's why I disagree with you on that.
Okay.
The WWE right now is walking a tightrope, and they're doing it well at the moment. But here's their problem. Who's the most over baby face in the WWE?
Sami Zayn.
Who's actually challenging Roman Reigns and is probably going to beat him for the titles at WrestleMania?
Cody Rhodes.
You cannot have those two near each other. At all in proximity to each other.
Well, I think the way that I had played it out was do the Women's Rumble, then do Bray, then do
again, here's the problem.
Then do the Men's Rumble, then do Bianca Belair, then do Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens.
I think you needed the extra break between the Rumbles. Yeah, again, the problem is you can't have Cody near Sammy at all. They will turn up, the crowd will turn on that in a heartbeat. And you don't want that.
Right.
So I don't know exactly how they're going to handle this. I have my suspicions.
Yeah, we were pitching some ideas today on the Rumble review.
But they are still currently navigating that path well. We're going to have to see how that actually goes. I gave the first Rumble 4 stars, the Men's Rumble. Dude, Gunther, man.
Oh my God, Walter.
Bless him.
Yeah.
He's the man.
After
all the belts.
I was going to say, after I threw my giant hissy fit.
Why did you throw a hissy fit?
Oh, I threw a hissy fit because Brock got eliminated by Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, because Brock and Bobby Lashley are still feuding.
Either way. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It's like I'm just a huge hello.
I know who you are. I'm asking you to just take half a step back from your irrational fandom. Half a step. Not even a full step. Half a step back.
It's fine. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. That was all me just having a big fanboy hissy fit.
As Brock is smashing the ring steps on the announcement.
Oh my God! What I really wanted to see him was end the Rumble right then and there. Like they had to just stop altogether because Brock tore the ring apart. That's what I was waiting for. Like just ripping up ring posts and shit.
You are every bit as bad about Brock as Vince was about Hogan, as Dana White was about Chuck Liddell.
All right, tomorrow we're doing the Whiskey Rebellion. It's supposed to be myself, Andrew Graham, Jesse, Robert Cooper, and Jeff Sloboda. Who the fuck knows that's actually going to happen?
Yeah. Last thing on the Rumble. I need your opinion on. No, I mean this.
Okay.
Closing segments, like the match between Roman and Owens.
Yeah.
Better than average. 3.5 stars.
Oh my God, that whole ending sequence.
The closing segment.
I was gonna say the closing segment was like the best thing on the show.
That's the best thing in wrestling in like years.
Yeah, I talked about that. Like apparently the only angle worth talking about right now in wrestling is the bloodline.
It is. It really is. Oh, please, Kevin Owens, from me to you, don't ever do that spot on the ring steps again. That was disgusting. Okay. I mean, like I've got a strong stomach, right? I don't wince very often. The first time Roman slammed him like that, I actually went, "Oh God."
I may have nodded off. All right, but that's gonna be it for the week. I'm re-airing the UFC 241 Cormier versus Miocic commentary that we did. Robert's supposed to be putting up fucking Everyone Loves the Bad Guys.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
look, I've got tomorrow to do a bunch of other stuff. Like, I have nothing else to do. Let me rephrase. Most of tomorrow is open, so I should be able to start going through that again. So
Good. Put them on the calendar, Mindy.
not that it actually matters.
Hey, look, you annoyed somebody with that Shield one. That's great. What a comment.
Dude. People.
Anyway.
People of YouTube, you disappoint me, and I had reasonable expectations for you.
All right, so we have Everybody Loves a Bad Guy Saturdays and Metal Hammer of Doom Sundays. These are all re-airs from the Blog Talk Radio era. So for the month
come on, no one's watching.
So we've got Civil War, what was the name of that album? Civil War, The Killer Angels. And then we have our Death retrospective that Robert Cooper did by himself. Then we have the 2013 year in review, and then we have our Slayer retrospective. So those will all be Metal Hammer of Doom Sundays in February. And then next week, presuming I stay with my schedule, we'll be doing a Black History Month starts this week.
Wait. Are you re-airing like you and Jason Teasley talking about Pootie Tang?
No, we got all new shit this year.
Oh, tell me, Mark, how are you and some of your friends going to mark Black History Month in 2023?
The Black History Month shows are as follows. We have a triple feature featuring Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, and Juice. That'll be myself and Jason Teasley. We will also be doing... Where is it? A triple feature, Foxy Brown, Sheba Baby, and Black Mama, White Mama. Those are all Pam Grier movies.
You would not have been able to guess from the title.
And then we are closing out the month of February, Black History Month, with a triple feature dedicated to Eddie Murphy. We've got Harlem Nights, Trading Places, and Life.
Life.
Nelly. That was one
Eddie
more.
Murphy.
Maybe I cut something is what happened because I had to make room to be social. So anyway, so next week we've got we're kicking off Black History Month with the aforementioned Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, and Juice. Then our review of Knock at the Cabin, and then Alexis and I will finally finish up our Resident Alien Season 2 with the second half of that. And then the History of Boxing is back. We're going to be looking at Pernell Whitaker versus Julio Cesar Chavez.
Great fight.
That's all I got. Do your thing.
So, I cover professional wrestling and mixed martial arts action. Last week I mentioned I covered the 2023 Royal Rumble. That's it. My report for that is in the Wrestling Zone of 411mania.com. If you want my again, it was done live, and I don't edit after the fact, really. It's just copy paste when I do live. I will be doing, in fact, right after we get done with this, I will be writing up my review for AEW's Dark Elevation, episode 100. They did it. Mark, they did it.
Yay.
Elevation, hit the 100 mark. We're celebrating with a usual event. It's just nothing special. Nothing special at all. Not a darn thing. MLW, when they released stuff, there was no episode apparently last week, so I guess I was never given shouldn't be anything funky, but yeah, I get early access to that because MLW is cool. Did not get one last week, so I assume they had the week off. Anyway, I believe they'll be back this week, so be on the lookout. If they put something out, I will review it. And WWE SmackDown on Friday. So,
oh my God, I have breaking news.
All right.
Winnie the Pooh 2 horror sequel to Blood and Honey announced.
Some people just have too much money and not enough sense.
Yeah. All right, you done?
There will be a UFC event on Saturday. I believe the prelims start at 10 p.m. Eastern. Mark, will you be staying up until 3 in the morning to watch this?
What is this Saturday?
It's headlined by Derek Lewis and Sergey Spivak.
No, I will be in Orlando being social.
I get the feeling that watching Derek Lewis and Sergey Spivak fight the way they fight might actually be right up the alley of the people you're being social with.
Probably.
Anyway, I will be covering that. That also features all of the finals for the Road to the UFC series that was airing on Fight Pass. I believe it was Fight Pass. So a lot of like Southeast Asian. So there's like guy from India, a few Japanese fighters, a couple of South Koreans, one from it wasn't the Philippines. I believe he's Laotian. I'll have to double check. Anyway, a bunch of guys from that part of the world are going to be on the undercard. It's not a great card on paper. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. In fact, it has potential to overperform, but I'll be covering it. It just was supposed to take place in South Korea. This was originally scheduled to be in Seoul. For some reason, they moved it to the Apex, but because their broadcast time was to be aired prime time in South Korea, here we are. And starting at 10 p.m. Eastern, the prelims, main card starts at 1 a.m. I'll be covering it. And if you're interested in my thoughts on that card, as well as news of the week, I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast every Sunday. Late Sunday, early Monday morning. So this last episode, again, is a preview of the upcoming event and news of the week, including a bunch of stuff on Conor McGregor. Because he was accused of assault, got hit by a car, and is apparently coaching tough all in the same week. Big week for him. Big week. Really big shoe.
Dog.
Really big. So yeah, Mark and I will be back here next week, as previously discussed. We will be talking about Dave Bautista and Ron Weasley menacing a nice gay couple and their adopted Vietnamese daughter.
That's right. M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
Sadly, no doorbell at the cabin. Otherwise, it could have been M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong at the cabin.
I will also have a brief thought on 80 for Brady.
I'm sure it will. All I want it to be is you just unable to form a sentence as you laugh. Like, whether that's because the movie's really, really bad or because you had a genuinely good time.
I'm going to talk about sexual thoughts regarding Rita Moreno. And with that...
Well, dude, you and I have both seen Oz.
True. It's not like, that far. It's not that far removed from reality.
She was not a bad looking woman in Oz.
She was a hot tomato.
Dude, in her, like, she's in the original West Side Story. She was a very attractive woman in her prime, and she has aged very well.
She is a hot tomato. All right. With that,
we all know Mark's heart belongs to Lily Tomlin.
I was just thinking about her in the fucking Steve Martin movie. Gosh, just where like her soul like possessing him, and he's like, I can't go in there. That's the bedroom.
I don't know that one.
Oh, you know, hang on real quick.
Look it up. I now need to know this as well.
Yeah, hang on. Steve Martin movies. I could have looked up Lily Tomlin, but I'm
Steve Martin in The Jerk.
That's also a great movie.
Dude, that movie has the best opening line in history.
Oh yeah, I was born a small black child in the south side of Chicago.
I was born a poor black child.
South side of Chicago.
And it's just Steve Martin.
It's All of Me, from 1984.
Okay.
You never seen All of Me?
No, I have not.
It's directed by Carl Reiner. And yeah, Lily Tomlin dies and she's like a shrew, and she ends up fucking possessing Steve Martin. It's great.
Oh, I thought you were making a bad joke about seeing All of You because of your penchant for appropriate public nudity. No, I have not seen All of You, Mark.
Would you like to?
No, I really wouldn't.
Well then, I think we should end the show.
I prefer our relationship to remain as it is.
Why does everyone only want to have platonic relationships with me? Ladies and gentlemen, that is
I don't know, but it's odd that it happens that often, and it should give you pause about yourself.
That is our review of The Pale Blue Penis. For Robert Winfree, I'm Mark Radulich.
The autobiography of Mark Radulich.
Be well, be safe, and behave.